This is the story of how Mark, hesitant to embrace the unfamiliar, discovered that stepping into discomfort unlocked a world of confidence and possibilities he never knew existed. The name of this story is Stepping into the Unfamiliar. Mark stared at the invitation on his kitchen table, the elegant script contrasting sharply with the clutter surrounding it. His friend Emma was hosting a weekend workshop on photography in the mountains, and she wanted him to come along. Mark loved photography, but only in the comfort of his backyard, capturing images of birds and flowers where no one could watch him fumble with his camera settings. "Join us, it'll be fun," Emma said. "You'll get to learn from professionals and meet other enthusiasts." He sighed, stirring sugar into his coffee. The thought of being around strangers, possibly exposing his amateur skills, filled him with unease. "Maybe next time," he texted back, offering a vague excuse about prior commitments. Later that day, Mark stopped by his favorite bookstore. As he browsed the travel section, an older gentleman named Henry, whom he'd seen there before, struck up a conversation. "Planning a trip?" Henry asked. Mark shook his head. "Just looking. I like the idea of traveling, but I've never actually gone anywhere too far." Well, the world begins where your comfort zone ends," Henry mused. "Sometimes you have to step into the unfamiliar to discover something new about yourself." Mark pondered this as he drove home. His life was predictable, a stable job as a software developer. Evenings spent reading or watching documentaries. Weekends tinkering in his garden. It was comfortable, but increasingly, it felt stagnant. That night, unable to sleep, Mark scrolled through social media. He saw posts from friends hiking trails, attending concerts, and trying new restaurants. Their lives seemed vibrant compared to his. And impulsively, he reopened Emma's message and typed, "Is it too late to join the workshop?" "Absolutely not," she replied almost instantly. "I'll send you the details." The following weekend, Mark found himself driving towards the mountains, anxiety gnawing at him. But upon arrival, he was greeted by a group of enthusiastic participants. Throughout the day, they hiked to scenic spots, shared techniques, and compared shots. Mark felt out of his depth, but also exhilarated. Now, despite initial missteps, he began to enjoy the camaraderie and the breathtaking views his backyard could never offer. Encouraged by this experience, Mark decided to push himself further. He signed up for a public speaking class, recalling how he'd always avoided presentations at work. The first session was nerve-wracking. His palms sweated and his voice wavered, but the instructor was very supportive, and his classmates offered constructive feedback. Each week, speaking became a tad bit easier. One evening after class, a fellow participant named Lucas approached him. "You've been improving a lot," he said. "A few of us are forming a group to practice more. Are you interested?" Mark hesitated, but then nodded. "Sure, why not?" As months passed, Mark noticed a shift within himself. He was saying yes more often. For example, trying exotic foods, attending more social events, and even, dare I say, taking dance lessons, and of course laughing off his two left feet. The unease that once held him back had lessened, replaced by curiosity and confidence. Seeing his transformation, Emma approached him with a request. "I'm organizing a personal development seminar," she explained. "Would you share your journey about stepping out of your comfort zone?" "Me? Speak at a seminar?" Mark was incredulous. "Exactly. Who better to inspire others than someone who's been through it?" The thought was terrifying, but he agreed. On the day of the seminar, Mark stood backstage, heart pounding, palm sweating, and stepping up to the microphone, he took a deep breath. Not long ago, I would have never imagined standing here, he began. I lived within the boundaries of my comfort zone, afraid to venture beyond, but I've learned that discomfort is a sign of growth. He recounted his experiences, the photography workshop, the public speaking classes, the small victories that slowly but surely expanded his world. The audience listened intently, many nodding in understanding. Stepping into the unfamiliar isn't easy, Mark concluded, but each time we do, we redefine what's possible for ourselves. The room erupted in applause. Afterward, attendees approached to thank him, sharing their own fears and aspirations. Your story really resonated with me, one woman said. I've been hesitant to pursue my passion for writing, and maybe it's time to start. Driving home that evening, Mark reflected on how far he'd truly come. The unease that once dominated his decisions had diminished. He realized that while stepping out of his comfort zone was initially uncomfortable and a little bit terrifying, it led to experiences that enriched his life immeasurably. Now, Mark's journey began with reluctance to leave the safety of the familiar. But by taking small, courageous steps into new experiences, he discovered that discomfort was temporary and led to personal growth. His story illustrates that expanding one's comfort zone not only builds confidence, but also opens doors to opportunities and connections that would otherwise remain out of reach.